right. Good evening. I'd like to call to order regularly scheduled board meeting of the Truckee Donner Public Utility District. Today is Wednesday, March 4th, and it is 6:01 p.m. Martina, can I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Director Bender?
Here.
Director Finn? Here. Director Randall?
Here.
Vice President Morrell?
Here.
And President Lalliot?
Here. All right. Since Krista has been, we'll honor her with starting the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Hot seat. Ready? Begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have any changes to the agenda tonight, Brian?
We have one change. We'd like to pull workshop item number 17 from the agenda. With the lengthy agenda this evening, it thought it'd be more appropriate to have some additional time for that workshop at a later date.
Okay. Duly noted. We will pull item number 17 from the agenda to be heard on another day. Okay. With that, we'll move on to public comment. It's time set aside for the public to address the board on any matter not on the agenda. Testimony related to any agendized matter should be addressed at the time that that item is considered. Do we have any public comment tonight? Anything online? Nope. Okay. We will close public comment and move on to director updates. Krista, welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. And you're right. Of course, I have a comment now that I'm back.
That's right. I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
First of all, it is really good to be back. I missed being here. I missed these people, these meetings, the things that you guys do. I also particularly missed going to Capitol Days with Stephen and his crew. It's just such an opportunity to learn a lot about our industry from all different angles. So I'm sad to have missed it, but there's always next year. Also, I listened, of course, to the meeting last month, and it made me, it was really interesting, and it's great to just listen to a meeting sometimes and see how they unfold without being an active participant. It allows you to focus a little bit more just on what staff is doing on a daily basis. And at the time that I was listening to it, a lot of things were going on. There was that big burst water main in Yuba County. I'm sure that you guys saw that, and it caused a lot of flooding and almost killed somebody. There was a big burst sewer main in the capital, Washington, D.C., and it dumped millions of gallons of sewage into the Potomac. And it really made me realize how lucky we are to have a community that supports the work that we do, that you do here. And it was such a vivid contrast and a stark reminder of the importance of maintaining and repairing and upgrading and expanding and adding redundancy to our systems. We plan, we budget, we build, we bid, we build. It's always infrastructure week here at the PUD, and it is just so vital for the health and safety of our community. And that's exactly what you guys did last meeting. It's exactly what we're going to do this meeting and the next meeting as well. And finally, I just want to remind everybody that there are really great things happening in the world. Sometimes it feels like we're going backwards in some ways, but the renewable energy revolution is strong. It is happening globally. Things like huge geothermal projects coming online in England and in Iceland. China is just killing it with renewables, with solar and wind in particular, and of course building EVs and building them out. Reforestation projects around the world. We always think of deforestation and how terrible that is, but you know what? The reverse is now happening. We have once the land is no longer so pressed, the natural world returns. And it's really amazing to see. And we have accomplished so much here locally in this community, and we are going to continue to do that. And we're not going to let our vision for the future be derailed by the whims of small-minded people and short-sighted people. So I'm very proud and grateful to be in here with you guys and doing it. So thank you. That's my director's comment. It's good to be back.
Courtney? Okay. All right. Nothing much for me. Just once again, thank you to the staff. Keeping the lights on, water flowing through these big storms we had, both rain and snow. And I look forward to our department updates to learn about how our system did. So,
You just kind of refreshed my memory of some things. And I just wanted to pass along with this last storm surge we had. In the Tahoe Donner community, I was hearing a lot of kudos for the Truckee Donner PUD of keeping the power on. Wow, this is so great and noticeable, and because it was pretty heavy up there. So anyway, noticeable. I shared those comments with Brian, and I just want to publicly say that people are paying attention and are thankful and grateful for the work the PUD does every day.
all right. Now we'll move on to department updates. Thank you, Courtney. Good evening, Scott.
President Laliotis, directors of the board, thank you for that lead-in. I am Scott Crow, the IT director, CIO. I am going to give some updates tonight on the electric engineering and operations department for the reliability metrics. So it was a good lead-in for that. So Director Swanson talked about these metrics for the last couple of months. And so this will be the first time that we're kind of presenting them. The goal is to present these at the board meetings monthly. These will stagger, so we'll see the previous month is what we'll be talking about. So quickly to go over what these are. SAFE is how often outages occur for customers. And if we look here compared January 26th to between the comparison of January 26 and January 25, there was a negative 96% change. That's actually good. This metric allows us to focus on reducing interruptions. SAIDI is how long customers were out of power. And if we look at the comparison between the 2 months, that's a change of 15 minutes, negative 92%, which is also positive. This metric here allows us to focus on minimizing the total impact. And then KD is how fast restorations occur. And on this one, there was a change of 91 minutes between the months, which was a 142% change. This one, this particular one was caused by a couple of outages that sustained longer than we expected, and I'll go over those here in a second. All three of these metrics include planned and unplanned outages, and they also only are pertaining to our system, not the power provider events that happen. So we look at the key outage drivers between unplanned and unplanned. We had 2 unplanned outages, January 4th and January 11th. One was snow-related, the other one was because of a failed transformer. And then the planned outages of the 10th and the 27th were due to hot tub installations.
PUD did not install a hot tub.
And that one, this is the reason why I asked to do this update. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so for the power provided outages, these are reported separately. Like I said, they're not a part of these metrics, but the sustained outage on January 1st was due to weather-related transmission outage. It affected 7,800 customers roughly, with roughly 62,500 customer minutes without power. So these metrics over time will allow staff to track outage causes and trends to identify areas for improvements. So look forward to these in the next board meetings as well. And as well as in the staff report, there's other really good updates for the electric department, but I'm here just to cover these ones. So thank you.
A little bit of additional information on that. As Scott pointed out, we're starting these metrics with a new process for us in terms of reporting and year-over-year or month-to-month comparison. Some of the increases you saw there, as Scott pointed out, is because we're starting in January. Those are the winter months. And as we go throughout the year, you'll see the averages start to kind of normalize across the whole year in the year-over-year comparison. Since we're starting from scratch at a January month when we had winter storms, you're going to initially see some numbers that are pretty aggressive, but that'll normalize over the rest of the month. And then, as I mentioned, the PUD didn't install hot tubs. What we often see is some homes will do improvements to their property, hot tubs in this particular circumstance, where they do planned outages because they have to have infrastructure craned into their backyard or access through aerial transport. And so the customer pays a fee for the district. They pay the actual cost of that. Our line crews going in, de-energizing, and sometimes taking lines out of the way. They're notified the whole neighborhood or the impacted customers ahead of time. It's all planned out. And then whatever actual costs are incurred, the customer will be billed for those. But sometimes that's the option the customer pursues, and it does result in a planned outage.
It's an expensive hot tub.
I was just about to say that. How long does something like that take typically? You know, say an hour, 2 hours?
It varies based on kind of the difficulty. There's some cases where it's a very large crane and it's kind of a multi-stage placement, but typically it takes our crews, an hour plus for the setup, wait for the work to be done, and then an hour or so for the coordination and re-energization. So it could be a multi-hour event.
All right. Hot
All right.
tubs to dollars.
Good evening, President Laliotis, members of the board. Mike Salmon, Chief Financial Officer. Quick update on things in the CFO world. Every month I present customer service scores, and this is the time of year I can present for the full year. And this is 2025's customer service scores. I'm just going to go over a few quick things here. How satisfied with your experience with our customer support? Extremely satisfied, and very satisfied is right at 91%. So really good score there. How much time did it take you to address your questions and concerns? Different expectations depending on the customer that called, but relatively good scores here in those first three categories. Was your issue completely resolved? Was over right at almost, I think it was 88%, that green bar on the left. And then type of customer calling is on the right, kind of a mix between full-time and second home callers, the green and blue respectively, and a little bit of commercial. Kind of represents our customer class base. And then categorize the reason for your service call, billing questions, and payment questions. Those are different. A little tricky to categorize sometimes. Sometimes they're related, but those are the top two. I would certainly note that power outage is pretty small on here, with our automation through our OMS system and the improvements we've made thanks to IT and others and electric's investment. The actual calls for power outage, other than a few hot tubs, is pretty low. Water leak is a little bit of a complex one there. It could be a water leak. They got a notice, received a notice for their individual home. It could be a water leak driving down the street, as Neil pointed out the other day. So there's a mix of calls there. Maybe we can break that out a little bit in the future. Not a lot of commercial. On the left here, facilities, we're wrapping up bid docs to go out for building security enhancements, and assuming that looks pretty good, we'll be presenting that to the board for review and potential approval or discussion and then asphalt replacements is a big process each year. Overhead doors, we did preventative maintenance, PM. Anytime you hear PM, that's preventative maintenance in pretty much any industry. various areas of support for the Morris Valley substation, fiber optics. We sent out, we're in the process of a bid there, and we had to locate some things, and the facilities team helped out there. Vehicle maintenance fleet, we installed studded tires, a new program for 2026. The smog and bid inspections are ongoing and laborious. And then various fleet repairs, nothing too crazy right now, knock on wood. Just a refresher on our mileage, 300,000 miles in 2025 is an average of 24,000 per month. In January of 26, we had 18,477 miles. So winter months are probably a little less than summer months. In accounting and finance, we got notice on January 29th, a great notice. GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, told us that we received our Certificate of Excellence Award for the 2024 ACFR, Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, so 5th consecutive year. Thank you to Tracy and Melanie, who are not here, but big kudos to those two for helping with that. And it's a big project, and we're excited about that. So we're actively involved in getting the audit prep. That's the next item. So year-end closeout, budget performance report, that's later tonight. Treasurer's reports in your board packet as well. And then for closing the year out, getting ready for the audit, two remaining items, big items, are the pension and OPEB year-end valuations. We're waiting on the actuary on that. Supposed to get that next week. And then just, getting everything ready and preparing another act for 2025. And then the Grace Crossing Agreement, I believe it was November, there was sale of two parcels that the board authorized, and that is still active, believe it or not. Yeah, and real close, I've been working with the attorneys for our CFD attorneys, as well as the escrow agent, I think somebody with Placer Title down in Sacramento. So that is definitely great news, and we're optimistic that it will still happen here early to mid-March. So that's what I know there. Jillian.
While Jillian's getting ready there, on the water leak calls that we saw a little bit elevated graphic there this time of year, just kind of for the board's information and public information, this time of year we do receive a higher volume of leak reports, and it's because a lot of times, two scenarios. One is that snow melt that we get a little bit of early spring conditions the last couple of weeks, and with the rain, that snow melt can travel underground for long distances or even under the roadway, kind of under the base layer of the road, and then surface in the middle of the road much further down, hundreds of yards, sometimes, a mile away, depending on what the geography looks like. And it'll surface in the middle of the road, looks like a main leak, but it's really snow melt. We encourage the community to continue to call us. Don't just ignore it, but there's a lot of them that happen in the exact same spot every year, and the communities become, they're familiar with it, and so they might not call us, but we encourage them to call. Usually we'll coordinate with the town or ourselves to check it out. The other condition is when you have frozen, freezing temperatures during the winter, a lot of customers discover leaks on their own properties once the snow melts or the thaw starts to happen. So something gets damaged during the freezing weather, not a lot of snow cover, and then later on it starts to thaw out and we start to get a lot of reports of leaks. It's not necessarily because our system has a lot of leaks, it's just things start to surface once the melt happens.
All right, Jillian.
Good evening, President Laliotis, members of the board, Jillian Stewart, Human Resources and Risk. For our core value recognition winner, we actually have him in attendance tonight, Neil Kaufman, our water engineer. Neil was nominated by his peers for his demonstration of integrity with a recent customer. Neil was walking through the lobby when he overheard a customer upset and not understanding their water bill. Neil, having expertise in the area from both his position here at the district and as a customer himself, stopped and offered his assistance, which helped resolve the situation. Neil could have continued to walk on by, pretending to not have heard, but his high level of integrity is why he took the time to be of assistance to the customer and to his customer service coworker. Thank you, Neil. Event recaps. This is a couple of pictures of our Super Bowl potluck. We do this annually. It's probably our biggest one of the year. A lot of really good, yummy, not so healthy food. comes out. We do it the Thursday before the Super Bowl, and then we encourage staff to wear whatever sports jersey that they want to represent for the potluck. This year, we did Office Olympics during the Winter Olympic time period. This kind of came together a little bit last minute, so we had a scaled down version of some of the events that were set up in different areas throughout the district. So we had in the top corner there, Melanie's leaning over a little ice hockey game that we did in the payroll office. Then we have curling that was in the warehouse for staff to do. Our biathlon, which was mostly just shooting a rubber band, was held in our records tech office. And then not pictured is a trivia, Olympics trivia that we also did that our finance team hosted. And then the other pictures below are our medal winners when we had our medal ceremony during yesterday's all-staff meeting. So that was fun to celebrate with our medalists. Not pictured is Martina, who also got a silver medal in trivia. And we had a safety and staff development opportunity last month as well. Truckee Fire came out and did our recertification for CPR and first aid. A lot of our field crew positions, this is a requirement of their job, and so we make sure that we stay up on the certs with that. But it's a staff development opportunity as well because we open it to any district team member that wants to get certified and go through the training. So we have many that have been certified over the years, and then some that just pop in for a refresher and to get that education. So good opportunity for staff. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Jillian. Is that it? Okay. All right. We will move on to the consent calendar, items 8 through 11. I don't believe any of these items have been requested to be pulled. So is there any public comment on the consent calendar tonight? All right. Seeing none, any board discussion on the consent calendar tonight? All right.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar and to pay the bills.
Second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. All right. Consent calendar is done. All right, we'll move on to action item number 12, consideration for approval of the 2026 unrepresented and represented salary schedule and new positions.
Jillian Stewart back again to present action item number 12. Under the district code, the general manager is responsible for maintaining a compensation and benefits package for district employees. We do this through 2 salary schedules. The first for represented by IBEW 1245 employees, and the second for unrepresented exempt employees, which includes management, engineering, and technical service employees. Our current MOU with IBEW Local 1245 was effective January 1st last year through December 31st, 2027. In that agreement, there was a 5.5% general wage increase for last year and 4% general wage increase for 26 and 27. Unrepresented staff salary and benefit packages were adjusted in March of last year. Unrepresented staff received a 5.5% general wage increase in alignment with the represented staff. The goals of our 2026 salary schedule adjustments are to maintain competitive salaries to recruit and retain high-performing staff, reclassify positions to address expanding responsibilities, and to create operational effectiveness with adjustments to our org structure. Up here, I won't read through them, but this is a list of the changes to both the unrepresented and represented salary schedules. More details were included in your board packet with explanations and kind of going into more detail, and the salary schedules were included. The next couple of slides is just more visual representation of some of these changes using the org chart. A little bit small to read there, but first up is the general management department. Then the red boxes are the reclassifications or changes or new positions. So that one says AGM/CIO. Electric utility, nothing in red in this department. Water utility. finance and administration. Then we get to information technology, where you see the AGM CIO, IT operations management manager, and the GIS solutions engineer and project manager listed here on the org chart. Communications and strategic affairs, this is where the utilities resource strategies manager is under. And then human resources and risk management, where the HR specialist will be. Staff is recommending a general wage increase of 4% for unrepresented staff, in alignment with represented staff's general wage increase for '26. There is a new California requirement that we are to verbally acknowledge changes in compensation and benefits for department head staff prior to board action. So that is what I'm doing, and listed up there are the positions that need to be, our department heads that need to be listed. So our fiscal impact for unrepresented salary schedule changes, the salary proposed changes result in a net annual salary favorable variance to budget of $158,573, or 2.6%. Labor overhead estimated cost savings variance of $124,727, and both of those combined a cost savings of $285,300 to budget. These savings come from not backfilling the Director of Electric Power Supply and reclassifying an existing position to the Utilities Resource Strategies Manager. And there's no annual salary variance to budget for the represented salary schedule, as it was already included in the budget. Recommendation tonight is for the board to, 1, approve the unrepresented salary schedule as presented, and 2, approve the updated salary schedule for IBEW 1245 represented employees as presented. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Is there any public comment on this item tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on, unless there's anything online. Nothing online? No, okay. All right, we'll move on to director comments. Jeff?
Looking good so far. Thank you.
Courtney?
There's always something for me. Brian, can you just tell the board and those who are listening the new role of the assistant general manager and how you see this new role and how that will help the organization and you and your role?
Yes, thank you, Vice President Morrell. Historically, the Truckee Donner PUD, I shouldn't say historically, over the last decade or so, the district has kind of had a practice or a standard practice of designating an AGM within the department heads. And that AGM role was mostly limited to serving as the acting GM if the general manager was out of office or out of the area, or for whatever reason incapacitated, medical vacation, whatever it might be. And so that role was really just appointing in advance and delegating the responsibility of serving as the acting GM in the absence of the GM. And it came with a 5% pay stipend as denoted in our salary schedule submitted to CalPERS. Prior to that, going back many years, there was a dedicated assistant general manager. For those of you who have been here for a lengthy period of time, it was Steve Hollabaugh, our electric utility director and energy supply engineer. And Steve served as the assistant general manager for many years as a kind of a permanently designated position, and had that role and responsibility was supplemented in the salary at the time. And so when we transitioned to the kind of appointment with the stipend, that role was much more limited and really served as kind of a backup or a redundancy if the need arose. Over the last several years, we've been kind of reevaluating this, reassessing this, and because of all of the strategic projects we're taking on, the strategic initiatives, a lot of the great work that the organization is doing taking on, and pursuing, we're finding more and more a need for the general manager role to be more present and actively participating in more strategic areas of the organization, but still finding a need for that leadership component and, guidance and decision making internally with specific projects like or specific responsibilities like organizational efficiency, large strategic projects, the kind of cleanup and reorganization of the district's information systems, cleaning up of our public drives, not public drives, but in-house community drives, workflow efficiencies, and kind of delegated to the responsibility of a larger internal operational efficiency strategy. And so we've found the need to designate specifically an assistant general manager role to take on those internal strategies, leaving far more time and capacity for the general manager to elevate to a higher level in terms of leadership and strategic initiatives here in our community and with some of our challenges that we have, particularly with the rapidly changing landscape in the energy world and a lot of changes and new kind of unfunded mandates coming on the water side in California. And so I kind of hope that answers your question. It's really a strategic decision to have a designated AGM to take on some of the GM responsibilities internally and allowing more time for the general manager to focus on strategies initiated by the board and our community.
Great, that was really thorough, thank you. That was good. My second question, and I can't remember what slide it was because I don't see a page number, so it was something about tell me where the 4% comes from. Is that the recommendation? Where are we?
So we had it
Not the
here that
MOU.
it's in alignment with the 4% general wage increase that the represented staff got as well. And there's COLA, cost of living, CPI numbers were coming in around 3%. And so then a general wage increase of 1% to be in alignment with represented.
Thank you. That's all I have.
There was a small section in the board packet in the staff report that talked about this in terms of our strategies moving forward. One of the things we've discussed in previous kind of staff reports and discussions strategically with managing our wage and compensation and kind of personnel items within the organization. As Jillian mentioned, historically, the unrepresented staff members' adjustments in wages have, for the most part, been in alignment with those identified in the MOU negotiations, not the market resets. Like this past year, the MOU addressed a market adjustment for the line crew because we found post-COVID that those salaries were not competitive with the rest of the industry across Northern California. So we made some adjustments there, particularly with that work group. And then the rest of the represented group also had a 4% general wage increase. In the future, for the unrepresented group, the plan is, and this is kind of the introduction to that, where we break it out into a cost of living adjustment that's specifically tied to economic metrics in the state of California, the CPI indexes and other economic metrics, and then having within the budget performance-based incentives for the unrepresented group. So you'll see in the future, based on the kind of enhanced and restructured review process we're going to have internally, there'll be incentivized goals for unrepresented staff, and we'll have a budget allowance for that year. Board will be aware of it, but it'll be presented to the board for consideration. But we'll have budgeted labor costs, and when economic or financial metrics drive the cost of living adjustments, we'll have an additional stipend based on achievement and pursuit of goals. And those goals will be kind of categorized and structured so that they bring benefit to the service delivery, to our ratepayers, and the organization. So that's our future plan. You'll see a kind of a two-part component. There'll be a cost of living adjustment. As you mentioned earlier this year, the metrics came in at 3%. That additional 1% will be incentive-based, based on performance, meeting performance goals.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Not a question, just sort of a quick comment for anybody in the public who's watching. A lot of times these presentations, obviously they come to us, they're delivered to us, but this is the result of, a long and thoughtful process. We don't make these numbers up. We hire consultants when we revisit our MOUs with the IBEW 1245. We do surveys. What does the financial landscape look like? What is the competition in our region? And these are multi-year, often surveys, and we talk about them every step of the way up here in the boardroom. So it's something you kind of have to be watching the whole time. This is not a one-and-done thing that is new information to us. It is something that we have all spent time thinking about and making sure that we are hitting our budgets and our needs in here. And I just also want to compliment staff on their ability to be flexible and responsive to the needs of the district as far as what, for example, a GIS position was not something that we had 10 years ago, say. Energy procurement positions, for example, like the fact that that is a need that has grown significantly for us, for people who are only focused on that and the day-ahead markets. So these things are all, the fact that we are able to address them kind of quickly and effectively is a real compliment to HR. So thanks, HR. That's all from me.
Thanks, Krista. Agreed. As Jillian mentioned earlier, there is a substantial amount of information in the board document that was presented to the board and posted as part of the agenda. So I want to compliment you on that. Also, just compliment staff for looking at ways to find efficiencies, and operational efficiencies don't necessarily mean going backwards, they mean going forwards. And in this case, you presented that and you found a way to actually provide cost savings by not refilling a position that you felt, that staff felt could be filled in other ways. So a lot of this restructuring, a lot of this stuff that happens, that's happening here is not, is very typical of an agency. And on the AGM side, just, there are agencies that have dedicated AGMs. That's their sole job as assistant general manager. There are some agencies that don't have assistant general managers, and there's some agencies that have a mixed role like we do. So this is not uncommon, and the added responsibilities, I think, are important functions that sometimes general managers get overwhelmed trying to perform on their own in addition to the rest of their duties. So congratulations, Scott.
Or condolences.
Yeah. And also congratulations to everyone, who is impacted by these changes, and thank you for stepping up and taking on more responsibilities, and making this agency a better place to work. So with that, we have a recommendation on the board.
I'll move that we approve the unrepresented technical engineering and management salary schedule as presented, and also approve the updated salary schedule for IBEW 1245 represented employees as presented.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. All right. We are on to item 13, consideration of a contract to design the Sitzmark hydro-pneumatic pump station replacement.
Good evening. This is action item number 13, consideration of a contract to design the Sitzmark hydro-pneumatic pump station replacement. The Sitzmark tank site is located at 11357 Sitzmark Way. At this site, we have a ground-level water storage tank and a hydropneumatic pump station. Both facilities were constructed in 1973. The pump station is a wood frame structure with a metal roof, and that structure is undersized and has exceeded its useful life. You can see here a picture of the two facilities. The building is typical of our early 1970s construction. Those buildings are cramped and are no longer working for us very well. A little recap here. In the summer of 2023, the district issued a request for proposals to select a design consultant for the ski run tank and pump station replacement project. As a result of that process, a design contract was awarded to Sowers Engineering in August of 2023, and the RFP, when it was issued, did state that the district would likely utilize the selected consultant for additional design projects for the 2024 to 2027 period. So kind of back to our site here, you can see the TDPUD property is outlined there. We've got the existing storage tank and the pump station, and we're going to be locating the new pump station structure to the south of the two existing facilities. A little bit of the conceptual design that we're going to be moving forward with. Again, the pump station to be located on the south side of the driveway. The site piping at this location was replaced in 2018. At that time, we included points of connection for the replacement pump station, so we've had this on our radar screen for a while. Along with the piping replacement, we did install new underground electrical conduit and a pad-mounted transformer, and the on-site power supply was converted from overhead to underground. The new pump station structure is going to be split-face CMU block with a single-pitch roof. This will be similar to the recently constructed Joe Aguera pump station, and we are looking to increase the fire flow requirement to 1,000 gallons per minute from the 500 gallons per minute, which was the code requirement back in the early 70s. We are anticipating that the project will be declared categorically exempt under CEQA as a replacement of existing facilities. So the Water Department requested Sowers Engineering to submit a cost proposal for the design work. That's outlined here in the table. We've got about 103,000 in the design work, and then another 40,000 in bidding and construction services. Outlined here, we have the planned project schedule. Assuming the board approves the award of the design contract this evening, we would then be moving forward. We are targeting going out to bid in early June with a June 23rd bid opening, and ideally bringing a recommendation for award to the board on July 1st. We'd be looking to begin construction late July, early August, with bringing the new pump station online in the spring of next year, and then demolishing the old pump station facility. In terms of fiscal impact, again, the cost proposal from Sowers Engineering was $143,300. We are recommending a 10% change order allowance. That would be a total authorization not to exceed $157,600. And this project is included in the approved water capital plan budget for fiscal year 26-27. So the recommendation before you this evening is to authorize the general manager to execute a contract and all associated documents with Sowers Engineering to perform design of the Sitzmark hydropneumatic pump station replacement project for an amount of $143,300. plus a 10% change order allowance for a total not to exceed $157,600.
Thank you, Neil. Any public comment tonight on this particular item? Seeing none, not surprised. Just because it's a water project, come on. Nothing else. All right, no public comment. We will move on to director comments. Krista?
I have no comments. I think we should pump water.
I just have a question, actually, regarding CEQA. Since you don't anticipate, or having an exemption from CEQA because it's a replacement, but it's also a location change. So does that matter if it's still on property? It doesn't matter where it is for the exemption?
In this case, we believe moving the pump station structure about 30 feet really doesn't qualify as a significant change.
Okay, well, CEQA, so you never know. Okay, thank you.
Jeff Bender?
It's right by the Eastern Perimeter Trail, so it'll make that trail look a little nicer when you're riding your bike or walking around that tank. So that plus additional fire water, thumbs up.
Yes.
Quick question. Do you have a strategy for going out on construction bids from a timing standpoint? I've always felt that when you go out in late December while they're trying to get work, bids come in much better. Do you have any strategy for that?
I'm going to kind of discuss two different types of projects, one of which would be our pipeline replacement work. And in terms of the pipeline replacement, if we go back, let's say 20 years ago, in the 2000s, at that time we were typically advertising for bids on a pipeline replacement project in the February to March neighborhood. We would award that contract in the first meeting in April, and we would be able to begin construction in the beginning of May. More recently, even a little pre-COVID, but certainly post-COVID, we've encountered significant issues related to acquiring pipeline materials, mainly the brass and the meter boxes and things of that nature. And so we had to shift our bid advertising basically pre-Christmas. So right now, as we just went through the cycle where we're advertising for pipeline bids in the November, December neighborhood, opening bids in January. We're now still.
All right. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, those classic Tahoe Donner pump station building designs they have survived 53 years of snow in that, which isn't easy up there. So they did their job, but a lot of things have changed underground since then. So it's time. So, all right. Do we have a motion for this item?
I'll move Neil's recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you, Neil. Okay, item 14, approval of 2 development agreements for the Soaring Ranch Phase 2 and Soaring Ranch Off-Site Infrastructure Improvement Projects with JMAR 2 LLC.
Steve's gonna.
Council?
Thank you. I'd like to just make a disclosure for the benefit of the board and the public. Some board members may be aware, but others may not. I've been assisting the district with development agreements for related to JMAR 2. My firm does work for JMAR 2, not on these development agreements though, and so I have conflict waivers, conflict of interest waivers in place with both the district and JMAR that allow me to assist the district with these. And as I said, my firm does not assist JMAR 2 with these agreements. So again, I think some of you may know that, some of you may not, but now you all do. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
So yes, I'm going to take care of this item as well. Again, action item number 14. Excuse me. approval of 2 development agreements for the Soaring Ranch Phase 2 project. Little background here, the Jorger Ranch specific plan covers land along Brockway Road, Jorger Drive, and Soaring Way to the south and west of the Truckee Airport. The specific plan identifies a number of things. The one of interest to us is identifying new backbone electric and water system infrastructure that is necessary to serve the anticipated development. This includes 3,000 feet of water and electrical infrastructure along Jorger Drive from Soaring Way to the Riverview Sports Park, and an additional 2,800 feet of electrical infrastructure along Jorger Drive from the sports park to the school district's transportation facility. So here you have the land use plan for the Jorger Ranch specific plan. Of what we're going to be discussing tonight is kind of that block in red, which is Soaring Ranch. And here we have a figure showing the off-site infrastructure that we're discussing this evening. The blue line is the 3,000 feet of water and electrical facilities, and then the red line is electric only. So again, Soaring Ranch is the area of the Jorger Ranch specific plan that's located south of Soaring Way, north of 267. Again, that red block on the prior figure. Soaring Ranch Phase 1 is the existing commercial development with the Raley's Market and Mountain Hardware. Phase 2 involves construction of 2 structures at the adjoining property. This is the vacant land between the Raley's property and the lumber yard on the south side of the road. That project involves, again, 2 structures. Northerly structure, single-story commercial, over 23,000 square feet of space. The southerly structure is 4-story multifamily residential, 86 units. The project will also include on-site improvements, paving, landscaping, sidewalks, underground utilities, and things of that nature. So we've got here a site plan from the Town of Truckee Planning Department. Again, the northerly building, the one closer to Soaring Way, is the commercial. The southerly building is the multifamily residential. Some renderings of those 2 structures, the 2 top renderings, again, the 4-story multifamily, and the bottom 2 are the commercial building. So, per district code, Board of Directors approval is required for any development agreement where the total value of improvements being conveyed to the district for ownership, operation, and maintenance exceeds $400,000. Now, we have 2 separate development agreements for this project, one covering the on-site utility infrastructure, the second one covering the off-sites on Jorger Drive. And we do believe that the combined value of the improvements dedicated to the district under the 2 development agreements will likely exceed the $400,000 threshold. There is no direct fiscal impact to the district with this item. This project is subject to the normal connection fees and facilities fees schedules for new construction. The developer pays for district furnished equipment, such as electrical cable and transformers, and the developer is also responsible for other costs, such as construction inspection. So the recommendation before you is 2 parts. 1, to authorize the general manager to execute the development agreement between JMAR2 LLC and the district for the Soaring Ranch Phase 2 project in substantially the same format as presented. And the second one is to authorize the general manager to execute the development agreement between JMAR2 LLC and the district for the Soaring Ranch off-site infrastructure improvement project in substantially the same format as presented.
Would add to add one additional detail. It was in the staff report, but just for clarity in this presentation, the execution and completion of the first development agreement for the Soaring Ranch Phase 2 project is contingent upon JMAR 2 executing the offsite agreement. So the two development agreements are tied to each other. As Neil pointed out, the improvements that are being made for the offsite agreement are required in order for the district to adequately and reliably serve electric and power utility resources to the developments in the larger Jorger specific plan. So phase 2 is contingent upon a kind of a parallel agreement to make sure that those offsites are completed as well.
Thank you, Brian. All right, is there any public comment on this item tonight? Seeing none, move on to director comments. Krista?
I'm just curious, do we have, these are just development agreements, there's nothing, what are the timeframes for these projects to get underway? Like beyond is this all town of Truckee dependent, developer dependent? It really doesn't have much to do with us for the moment. I mean, it will ultimately, but when are they looking to get these things underway?
The short answer is all of the above. The long answer is these projects are kind of dependent upon a lot of moving parts. And, you know, the big portion of these development agreements getting, you know, to this phase is the permitting and zoning and all of the kind of the local land agencies, town of Truckee, all of their permitting and approvals through the planning commission, the permitting department, design review, all of that. That's a long process. The district's process is, you know, early on in these stages, we offer that we call them will serve letters, basically letting the town know that this is in our service territory, we will serve it. In this particular circumstance, our will serve letter was contingent upon the offsites being completed. So we can serve this development provided that these other improvements are made to our utility infrastructure. In terms of the project getting underway and taking place is also depend on developer funding, the organization and coordination of their contractors. There's a lot behind the scenes that happens. The district has a very small part in terms of those timelines. This is actually the third time we've entertained this development agreement in the last, I think, 7 years. So it's, you know, things start to get underway and hurdles arise independent of the district. And then, you know, so now this is the furthest along this has gotten in terms of this particular development in phase 2. And so the next step for us is just to execute those agreements to make sure we get everything we need in place.
Okay, fair.
And for clarification, the developer has revised their plan for this parcel probably half a dozen times through iterations with the planning department. So.
Yeah, you can't see the future at all. Okay, all good.
Ready? No? Jeff, anything? All good. Steve? Good. Just one quick question. Hopefully it's a simple answer. Are the offsite improvements to bring better infrastructure from the sports park area to the development or vice versa? Or a little of both?
So we have infrastructure down there, I guess I will call it along Jorger Drive, that for reliability and redundancy purposes, in order to be able to serve this area, needs to be interconnected. And again, this was identified back with the original adoption of the Jorger Ranch specific plan. So this has been in the works for, I mean, that document may be 10 years old at this point, I believe, the specific plan.
Yeah, this is, phase 1 was back in 2018, I believe. And to answer your question, this is essentially to loop those systems. You know, we've had discussions, the board received public comment and some impact from, or input from the Jorger family development. It's also across the street from this. And we talked about it then, that in order to sufficiently supply, particularly fire flow supply on the water side and electrical utility reliability, the system needs to be looped. The original, existing pipelines going into that airport district weren't designed for these design capacities or flow capacities. So that redundancy offers an opportunity to have sufficient flow there.
All right. Thanks for indulging me. All right, we have a recommendation from staff.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
I'll second that.
All right.
You're on it tonight.
Motion and a second. Do we have, I'll take, what's that? So, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you, Neil. All right, item 15. Considering acceptance of the district's fiscal year end 2025 budget performance review and fund transfers. Hello, Mike.
Hello, board. Let's see, this is agenda item 15, budget performance review. The agenda here this evening is I'm going to give a real quick overview, background information, then we'll dive into electric utility in depth, and then we'll talk about the water utility, and we'll talk about a few known changes since the budget adoption. So District Code Section 3.02, Budget Control specifies semi-annual budget performance review at a board workshop. And so this is the second one for 2025. We did a mid-year update in August, I believe, and then this is the full year update for 2025. The 24-25 budget was approved by the board on November 1st, 2023, so over 2 years ago. So just a top-level perspective of the district combined is $175 million in net position. That's comprised primarily of our investment in capital infrastructure, but also our cash assets as well. And then operating revenues is $62 million, and we have 86 employees, 81 regular full-time, and 5 elected board of directors. The electric utility for 2025, $40.7 million in operating revenue. And that was actually below budget by $2.5 million or 6%. Why could that happen? Well, $1.4 million of that is we provided PCA credits, power cost adjustments, to our customers. I'll talk about that on the right next. So those are credits on bills, which reduces your revenues. And that was because we had lower purchase power cost. And then 1.1 million or 3% is that the whole mix of all the other moving parts and pieces compared to budget between volume, demand, growth, and other variances. We did have 0.4% account growth, which was a little bit below our kind of long-term average, closer to almost 1%, 0.8, I think. And then there's other growth through demand and changes in demand and electrification, and then also heating degree days impacts, and that's the type of weather we're having and how cold or warm it is in any given year. And we had relatively mild 2025 in total. Heating degree days are 4% below 2024 and 6% below the 5-year average. So we sold less electricity because we had milder weather. Short answer. On the right, purchase power. That's our main category of expense. It's about a little over 50% of our, right at just under 50% of our operating expense budget for the electric utility. So $12.8 million. That was $2.6 million or 17% below budget. And that's comprised of the cost variance, which is assessed each quarter, and returning that back to our customers because we anticipated a higher cost for our wholesale power than we actually incurred. And so we gave the majority of that back to our customers. We did have two times where we provided about just over 400,000 back to rate reserve because it was beyond the 15% variance. So 1.4 million in credits to our customers. And then because we purchased less power, there was also less megawatts actually purchased. Since we're talking about rates and revenues, I did think it was appropriate to put in, it was in the staff report, the upper left quadrant for 2025, the TDPUD, the district electricity rate was 24.02 cents per kilowatt hour for 2025. That was up 8.7%. The rate increase was 12% on average. And so that difference is the PCA being applied primarily. And then some benchmark comparators. This is not for the region, which is probably more appropriate for California and USA. On the left is all customer types. On the right is residential only information that is readily available from the federal government EIA website. And then I put the ratios down below. So we lost a little bit of traction, and I looked into this a little bit in comparison to California and PG&E in particular, which is a dominant utility here in the state of California, has had some recent rate reductions in 25, some stuff that was temporary and other things. They probably had less purchase power costs as well, perhaps. Their average rate increase for California is not as great as ours, and that ebbs and flows year to year. It's never a match one-to-one. You have to look at it. I prefer to look at this on a long-term scale as opposed to just 1 year to 1 year, but that's what was readily available for this meeting. I did dive into Liberty, and they did have a rating decrease as well for 2025, but we're still had some time today for that. We are still, for 2025, excuse me, we are at 82% of Liberty's rate, which means they're 22% higher for 2025 than that 24 cents presented there. Sorry, that was residential, compared to the 24.31 on residential. So 22% higher for Liberty in 2025. So moving on to expenses, 16.3 million in expenses were right at 400,000 or 2% below budget. The electric utility operations was 1% over budget, and I'll talk about that in detail, as well as all the other departments were 400,000 favorable or 5%. I'll talk about that in detail in the next slide. And then on the right, it's important to know that there's other cash flows beyond just operating expenses happening, both on the electric utility and the water utility. And they're listed here. The other cash flows were a negative 3.2 million. So 3.2 million cash outflow, all right? And that variance to budget, we budget those items as well, and the variance was 48,000. That was 100% driven by a little bit better investment income due to market rates and our change over to class, adding classes as an investment vehicle. The rest of the items listed on the right there are at budget. So we transferred to vehicle reserves, 925,000, rate reserves, things listed there. So diving into operating expenses on the left is electric operations. So 1% over budget, and that was comprised of a 12% over in wages and a little 104% or 130,000 over in overheads. And then vendor expenses were 340,000 or 11% under budget. And that was driven by a lot of little stuff that added up to 151,000 net and 233,000 under in veg and defensible space, which was just under 2 million, that specific line item with that vendor. And that's due to timing of projects and all the various, you can imagine they're at dozens and dozens of sites, and just the logistics of that between years. They came in a little bit under for 2025. On the right is 7.3 million in all other operations that are for the electric utility. That's board, general management, administrative services, conservation, IT, GIS. Administrative services is over budget due primarily to the insurance overrun, cost increase in insurance. And IT is over because of less cost charging to capital projects, so that cost is hitting operating expenses. And so that's just timing of the various projects, capital projects, go or no go, those kind of things. Facilities was actually under budget this year. On the capital expenditure side, electric utility spent $8.5 million, invested $8.5 million in capital expenditures. The categories and groupings are on the right there. The primary items were $3.5 million for the Morris Valley substation modernization. That project is not complete. It is scheduled to complete this summer. $1.3 million in distribution system improvements. That's primarily Northwoods, that conductor and metal poles. We did $1 million in pole replacements, and other projects are listed there. We did use $500,000 in facility fees as budgeted toward the Morris Valley substation modernization. That was a budgeted use of funds of the facility fees. A portion of the Morris Valley substation funded it. The $8.5 million in capital expenditures were actually $14 million less than budget for 2025. $14 million less, okay? And those components are listed there. This is the budget for 25 as prepared in 2023, all of 2023 to over 2 years ago. So we anticipated in budget being able to execute on the facilities master plan with land and building capital expenditures of 11.2, a battery storage project that's been delayed of 1.5, and fleet replacements and the consistent extreme lead times, and that were the main items there. As you know, capital expenditure plans have been reset with the current budget that we're operating in for 26 and 27. We did new capital improvement plans for 10 years. So where does this all add up to? The net cash flows for operating cash flow for electric utility was $1.6 million favorable, and that was $700,000 greater than budget. The components of that $700,000 variance are listed below there. I've talked through each one of these. Where the rubber meets the road with respect to financial wherewithal is reserve balances, and on the left is operating reserve at 9.3 and capital reserve at 22.3. Okay? On the left, the beginning balance was 10.7. I am recommending a transfer, and that's in the recommendation in your staff report to the board of $1.5 million, which would draw it down to $9.3 million subject to approval. And how does that compare to what our policy balance is? Well, it says 50%, the policy says 50% of the operating expense budget. It doesn't say 50% of forward-looking or current-looking or backward-looking. So I put both on there. I'm comfortable with we're recommending a transfer of 1.5, which puts us at 9.3. 50% of 2026 operating expenditures is 9.4, so right in range. On the capital reserve side, 22.3 million, and the tail of the tape on how that we got to that balance is listed there. That includes the 7.3 million transferred early this year. It includes the 1.5 million transfer recommendation this evening. 12.4 is the average annual spend and budget per our policy target, which specifies average looking out in the CIP, which goes out 10 years. 12.4. Now that includes a lot of building and land over the next few years, next couple of years, and that's why essentially I showed you earlier where those projects were delayed, and so that's why our balance is so high. So it's not that that project isn't going to happen and we don't plan to spend that 22.3 or a good portion of it, but it's just a little bit delayed. Other reserves, the rate reserve is at 7.2 million, right in range and part of our in alignment with the financial master plan. And as I mentioned, we had 432,000 non-budgeted transferred in through the PCA process in Q1 and Q3. The other reserve balances there are listed on the right. The top two are designated, and the bottom three are restricted funds. So designated is kind of the board has the privilege to adjust funds and transfer funds as they deem as staff's recommendation and within their judgment are able to do so. Restricted funds have a higher level of restriction with respect to how we utilize and transfer funds and spend the monies. Moving on to the water utility. 20.8 million, about half of the electric utility. That was right in line with budget at 1%. Things vary year to year. Our gallons billed per day per account was down to 24 and up 3.5 to the 3-year average. It was pointed out yesterday by Neil, I think. Thank you, Neil. That the 3-year average includes one of those years, I believe it was 22. We had the big winter, and so people weren't starting their summer irrigation until really late, mid-June, when the snow melted. So that's part of what drives that average variance. Smaller than average account growth as well in 25. Operating expenses of $13.7 million for the year are right on budget. Water operations and all of the cost centers are shown there, the variances that offset to a $60,000 favorable, right at budget. And then other cash flows are a net outflow of $1.7 million for water. And the components are listed here. Everything's at budget. The outflows, paying $2 million in debt service, Donner Lake surcharge, et cetera, transfers to reserves, which you need to do every year. Investment income was stronger on the water side, so they had a little bit better variance. So water operation expenses of $7.6 million were $300,000 or 4% over budget. The components are listed here. The overhead's a little higher than I would have anticipated, but I think that's accounting, actual accounting versus budget variance between various departments. So I don't think it's anything anomaly. We do have more overhead in 25 than budget due to, I think we added a holiday and the longevity change, but overall our overhead rate was about 2% below, 2 percentage points below budget for the district as a whole, but that's a little misleading because it's driven in large part or in part due to the rate of pay changes in 25 being greater than budget. So that tweaks the ratios a little bit. Excuse me. Got this cold coming or something. Vendor expenses were right at budget. Asphalt was over by $300,000. 222 of that was that Town of Truckee infamous invoice for 2025. We saved in pumping and under and all other things that I could isolate that were of material nature in review. All of the operations are listed here with their various areas of savings and overage. IT, again, there's less, or administrative services, excuse me, was over due to insurance primarily, and then IT was over driven by less payroll being charged to capital projects. So it hit operating expense. So moving on to capital expenditures of $5.3 million for the water utility. That's a lighter year than some previous years when Chad and team had some debt issuance proceeds to spend, right? So this was a planning year, as I recall. But we got a lot done as well. So $5.3 million and $3.1 million in pipeline replacement. We got some new fleet. We did tank rehab and other projects. So the net for operating cash flow for the water utility was almost $1 million, which was $1 million greater than budget. 200 and the variance components of that are here, listed here. The large one is $232,000 in operating revenues, and then $565 at the bottom there in less capital expenditure, slightly less capital expenditure than budgeted. Again, timing, which dovetails into the rate, the transfer from operating to capital, which is on this page. $7.4 million operating reserve. It's a little bit higher than the financial master plan and policy target because we know the cash flow of that town of Truckee invoice is in '26, but it was charged in 2025. So I need to factor that in the balance because the cash balance is different than the balance after we pay that invoice, which I believe is already paid. And then on the right side is capital reserve at 6.4, and assuming approval of the transfer in of 1.6 million from operating to capital for water, and that is a great balance. That is substantially higher than the zero that I recall not too far long ago. All right. So that's great there. Other reserves for water are vehicle reserve. Again, they just got a bunch of vehicles, so they're going to be building that reserve balance back up. And facilities fees, activities are listed here. 663,000 in, 361 used for debt service. We do that every year since I believe 2006-ish, and then a similar amount. The legacy West River Street Bridge use of 592, some of that was cash flow this year. The other balance of it was from previous years, so that was a board-approved use of facility fees. Let's see, notable big things that are noted in the staff report and presented here. The rate of pay changes were different than what was budgeted. That's a material difference. And then we did the replacement projects identified because of the delays in the financial facilities master plan project activities. Get that money down and that money transferred to capital reserve. So the fiscal impact, there is no direct fiscal impact associated with the acceptance of this report. The recommended transfers shift designated reserve balances from operating to capital. And the recommendation is to accept this report of budget performance for 2025, which includes variances identified since the adoption of the budget for 2025. Authorize internal booked fund transfers as of 12/31/2025 as follows. 1, electric utility, 1.5 million from operating reserve to capital reserve, and 2, water utility, 1.6 million from operating reserve to capital reserve. With that, I'll turn it back over to President Laliotis for any questions or clarifications or a motion.
E-motion or a motion?
Thank you.
All right. Is there any public comment on this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to director comments. Jeff.
Thank you, Mike, and everyone. Numbers are looking good. So,
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you.
I do have a question. So, and yeah, the numbers look great, so we always love that, right? Going back to the electrical and water, the board line item, if I read this right, so the board was 59% of budget and water 47%. Did I read that right? And what is in that board budget?
So those are
What does that
variances.
comprise?
Those percentages were the variances, favorable variances. So there was good chunk of change savings in the board department for both electric and water because most of those costs are split 50-50, but not all of them. And the savings identified when I looked through it were in the strategic initiatives. So we have 40,000 per initiative, and we didn't really spend much of that at all in 2025 specifically. So that would generated the savings. And then there's training such that in budget for board of directors. And then there's the cost of meetings and strategic plannings and those kind of things that were under budget in 2025. And then those are the main things.
So we better get going as a board, right? So we can, right? Yeah.
Well, we don't.
We haven't.
You know, it's always better to say we do have some money budgeted to do something if we want to tackle one of the projects and it gets traction, those kind of things. But yeah, so that's what I can think of with that. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Brian.
Yeah, other items like board retreat, we didn't host a board retreat in 2025. We're planning one here in the next several weeks. Then other items, and, if the board decides to travel to conferences and things of that nature, that would be in that budget.
Great, thank you.
Krista?
Numbers that struck me as being awesome that we should stress is the 1.4 million back to our customers last year. It seems like that is ripe for a Stephen treatment. And
Yes.
and just tying that to, that's related to our power purchases and how focusing on renewable power lowers those costs for us and helps to insulate this utility from all the other things that we cannot control, like COVID-related supply chain snarls and international oil conflict. These are things that we can do right here that if we continue to focus on them will lead to positive results over time, like giving $1.4 million back to our customers. So full circle, thank you.
All right. That was a great summary, and a lot of nuances were explained, so thank you for that. Yeah, it was, the salaries obviously weren't necessarily, the increases that were provided in 2025 weren't necessarily budgeted based on what the outcomes were from the negotiations, et cetera. So that variance is understandable. And yes, 1.4 million back to our customers. Hopefully that trend is continued or neutral and not the other way, but you never know. There's a lot of crazy things going on in this world that can control our energy costs as we experienced a few years ago. And thank you for continuing to rebuild our rate reserve. I think that's, it's a great tool to have, and it was great to combine it with the PCA and sort of give those two parallel paths the ability to kind of work with each other. So I don't have anything else. We have a recommendation.
I move that we accept staff's recommendation. It's both A and B. Why not?
All right, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, final action item of the night. 16, consideration of proposed revisions to District Code Title 5 and Appendix G.
Good evening, President Waliotis, members of the board, Martina Rochford, District Clerk, presenting action item 16 this evening. While I am the one presenting this item, I do have to acknowledge that this was a group effort. Grant Sachs and Stephen Keats were really kind of the masterminds behind a lot of the content changes, as well as the new template that you're seeing this evening. As well as we had input from water and electric engineers, our general manager, and of course, general counsel. District code periodically needs to be reviewed and updated based on the items that you approve, any applicable laws and regulations. Staff chose Title V to go first to reflect the changes that the board approved last year with the rates and rate classes. Of course, with the board's blessing, the highlights would be really a big modernization of the document. You saw a new format change that is going to renumber the entire document. There were inconsistencies between different titles where the third subset of numbers sometimes use 2 numbers, sometimes they use 3. So staff designed this template that will be able to be applied across all the titles that are going to come forward to you over the course of the next year. So renumbering was really kind of the biggest change that you saw in Title V. The definitions were all taken from all capitals to just the first letter was capitalized, and then that carries through. The other changes that were kind of note were in the water point of connection and equipment definitions were expanded. As I said, the capitalization of definitions is what made that document a rainbow to look at if you looked at the red line. Rate details were moved to the appendix, and a new section was added for electric system impact study, which requires a development agreement of those large construction projects so that our team can do this electric system impact study. The big highlight for Appendix G, which historically in the past, Appendix G was just a cut and paste of the electric rates that the board approves in the ordinance. And Mr. Keats did a great job of clarifying the language for how those rates are applied. There is no direct fiscal impact associated with the approval of this item. And staff recommends approval of the District Code Title V and Appendix G revisions as presented.
All right, thank you, Martina. Appreciate that. Any public comment on this item tonight? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to director comments. Krista.
Just want to acknowledge that this is a big job that has been on our to-do list for a while, and I really appreciate it's starting to get chipped away at. It's more than just aesthetics. It's usability, usefulness to our customers and to ourselves. Just really making these changes is a huge improvement and very, again, unromantic work. So thank you very much for doing it.
Courtney?
Updates are always great. Thank you.
Jeff?
Yeah, very tedious, and I just want to say thank you very much. This, it's not a glamorous job, but I really appreciate everyone diving in and getting into the nitty-gritty of the code. So thank you very much.
All right. Ditto. It's a lot of work, even the front end of formatting and making this document be a little bit more user-friendly to make changes to in the future, make it more efficient. You know, those things are often overlooked because they're not something you see in the electric world or the water world, but they are necessary. So, and I know we probably have future things coming to us. You know, this is a very, very busy red line document. I get it. So focusing on bringing forward the substantive changes to the code that might affect customers, the board, staff, things like that. I think it would be important to focus on, just so we can kind of condense down page numbering to more where the rubber meets the road, especially for our customers. So that would be great. I don't have any further comments, so thank you. Great job. We have a recommendation.
Yeah, I'll move approval of the District Code Title V and Appendix G revisions as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. All right. We have ended action items tonight. Item 17 was pulled from this agenda at the beginning of the meeting. So now we will go into closed session on item 18 as presented on the agenda.